This week, First Lady Melania Trump is celebrating 1 year anniversary of her Be Best campaign. A campaign that is supposedly designed to focus on overall well being for young people, helping to end the opioid epidemic, and stopping or reducing social media bullying. Now, quite honestly, it's so easy to talk about the fact that the third aspect of it, particularly as it relates to social media bullying, it is complete hypocrisy because she has no ability to check her husband, who has called people online everything from sleepy to a dog to horse face to a low IQ just within the year that this campaign has been launched. So clearly, step three is a complete flaw. It's a complete fabrication in any sense of the word, which is extremely problematic. But let's also take it to the other areas where she talked about general well-being and the opioid crisis. The fact of the matter is the Trump administration put forth a lot of money for the opioid epidemic, but all of it hasn't been released. So to tell the truth, much of it has been a lot of talk and bluster, but they're not doing the work on the ground that they should be doing. And they haven't fully given out the funds that have been committed to this problem. So that's how the second aspect of Be Best is hypocritical and not working. But then when she talks about general well-being, let's look at what's happening with our kids. Let's look at what's happening in our schools. What's happening, because some of this work is done with with partnership with the Department of Education. Well, let's look at what's happening in many of our schools right now. Under Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Education, you see that there are cutbacks to in many different programs that could actually help students. They're making it harder for students with disabilities to get access to services in schools. They're making it harder for students who are labeled severe emotionally disturbed and have other mental challenges to get assistance. They are rolling back civil rights work that have been done to make sure that our children can be treated fairly in school. They are enabling terrible policies as it relates to our gay students. So really, at the end of the day, every single day, the Trump administration is working to make sure that our children cannot be best in everything that they're doing. It is atrocious. And then when you look at some of our programs, you see even outside of schools, you see President Trump touting the unemployment rate. First of all, job growth was larger under Obama. Let's just be factual about that. But it's interesting that nobody's talking about the fact that in cities like Chicago, you have black male youth who are facing a 45% unemployment rate. That's happening right now. And really, at the end of the day, people don't want to talk about that because it's too hard to try to go down and actually parse out some of these things that are happening. But that also affects young people's well-being. Are black men not part of Be Best? Black youth who are out on the streets, many of them who are returning to the streets or going to options to sell drugs because they're not being able to get much. The fact of the matter is, this administration under Trump has targeted marginalized young people. What about the young people who are crossing the border with their families right now? Some who have been separated from their families, never possibly to be seen again by their parents. It's not only young children in terms of month old, 12 months, 2 years, which is extremely tragic as well. But there are also children who are preteens, teenagers, a little bit younger than that, who are also being affected by this. So at every single juncture that I look at, I see the Trump administration, Melania Trump and Be Best and President Donald Trump as failing our children, particularly the children who are more marginalized. They don't really care for what's going on with them. And if President Trump can't be an example of what Be Best is supposed to be about, then that whole idea about social media awareness and stopping the bullying is a flaw. It's a lie. Our children are suffering for it across the country. They're suffering in the streets. They're suffering in schools. And it is shameful that the media and so many other outlets out there simply watch this go by and look at it as some type of joke. When I first saw Be Best rolled out, which was a playoff of some of the work Michelle Obama was doing, let's just be also factual about that, I thought the media was going to do its job and call it out on the hypocrisy that it represents, but for some reason, the media wants to be engaged in this farce that we call the presidency. And when I call it a farce, I'm calling it a farce for the marginalized. I'm calling it for the farce the people who want to keep their health care. I'm calling it a farce for the people who feel like they're working hard every day and they're getting screwed as it relates to their tax policies. Look what's happening to some of our Gold Star families as it relates to how they've gotten played on taxes, how many of us are getting played in other ways. This is a farce. This is not a presidency for the people. Melania Trump does not have a campaign of Be Best for the People. And my hope is that those who are out there, particularly those of us who are educators, will continue to do our work every single day to uplift our children and to help them really be the best that they can be, because we have an administration that has turned their backs on them at every single juncture. And it's really unfortunate, because education is supposed to be the great equalizer, but this is an administration that scoffs at the idea of public education and everyone being able to live their best lives. We have a Secretary of Education who's doing everything in her power to make sure that that's not possible, because she's for private institutions, and at the end of the day, we're going to suffer. So people shouldn't be out there celebrating Be Best. We need to be doing the real work on the ground to really help our children be the best that they can be, because this administration is putting them in situations and conditions where they can only be their worst. And I know that we can and do better as a nation. Let's get out there and do the work, because our government has failed us miserably.